Hello people of the internet, thank you so much for clicking on this video, and today we're going to be discussing Black Halloween. So some of you may have heard of it and some of you may not, but that's okay because we're going to talk about it today. So these days when we think of Halloween, we think of costume parties, haunted houses, candies, trick-or-treating, or you think about your costume 2 months in advance like me. But anyways, so we're just gonna go back to the origin of Halloween. So the origin of Halloween goes back about 2,000 years ago with these people called the Celts. So the Celts were like a tribe of people that are now predominantly known to have migrated in Ireland and large parts of Britain. The Celts believed was that once fall approached, that the land of the living and the world of the spirits, the veil that separated these two, now became thin. So therefore, they believed that evil spirits and evil forces were now able to roam the earth. So with October 31st being its peak day, also known as Samhain, I don't know how to say it, but I'll write it here. So what the Celts started to do was they would dress up in scary outfits to scare these evil spirits away. So it kind of became a tradition. Every year they would gather around a bonfire to dress up scary and also to keep each other safe. So as the years continued, this became more of a festival where the Celts would talk to spirits, dance, and celebrate the dead. So now fast forwarding to around the 1800s, when a lot of migrants from Ireland and Britain were coming into the United States. So obviously they would bring their traditions, one of those being Halloween. However, it wasn't exactly known as a time where you give candy or anything like that. That's not how they would technically celebrate it. They would celebrate it more by pranking people. That's where we get trick or treat. But we're gonna move on to the treat part later on. So once fall approached, once it was Halloween time, October, a lot of these pranks would sometimes get a little out of hand. And this is the beginning of Black Halloween, okay? So on October 31st, 1879, 200 local boys from Newport, Kentucky laid a lifeless body on top of railroad tracks. So the train operator ended up having to brake, as fast as he could, which actually put a lot of his passengers in danger. A train is obviously an extremely heavy object and they're traveling at a certain pace. So having to stop the train in an instant is going to cause some force. People that may have been standing up probably fell down. Children, I don't know if they had seatbelts back in the day for trains. I don't think they do. I'll Google that. But it's a dangerous situation, period, right? The train operator was able to stop on time, which is honestly a miracle. But let me tell you, when he got down to check on the body, he realized that it was a stuffed figure in the shape of a body, like a stuffed, I don't know what they used, if it was hay, if it was cotton, I don't know, but they made it look like a body. It was not a body. It was some type of stuffed figure. So the train operator said that he started to hear laughing and giggling. They were right next to like woods. So he said that he saw a bunch of boys laughing at him, hiding among the trees. So that's pretty messed up. Like, that man could have gotten a heart attack. That is a scary situation. Imagine almost killing someone and then realizing that it was just a prank. Like, that's messed up. Another prank, if you will call it that, is that a lot of the kids, the teenagers, the children, they would like to break down gates and release farmers' livestock. So like they would release their cows, they would try to get their chickens to run out. So that way, you know, the farmers or the people that just had animals, it was like a prank. It's just like, oh, you lost your horse. You lost your cows. Like, it's not very funny, but I guess. What I forgot to mention was that a lot of these pranks were actually more common in the countryside. Okay, by the time the 1900s started to roll around, early 1900s, a lot of these pranks were now more common in general, as in they were moving to the city. It was normal to not just see these pranks in the countryside, but now in the city, which is actually causing a lot of chaos. A lot of people were not used to it and they did not like it. So a lot of teenagers, they began to, I'm just gonna call them pranksters because really we don't know the age of them. They just said it was more common among the younger population, which is like children and teens. So a lot of these pranksters began to slash tires on like the old little Oldsmobiles that they would have. Like in the early 1900s, they would slash tires. They would remove road signs and put them like in a completely different place of the city, so people would be confused. There was like a sign in a random location where it shouldn't be. So obviously people did not like that. Another thing that they did was, which is like so mean, like I don't know why they did this, but I mean, I guess it's pretty harmless, but still. They began to throw bags of flour at random pedestrians that were walking in the street. So like imagine just walking in the street and then just being hit in the face with like white powder, and like you don't know what happened, who hit you, like it's random. Honestly, that would be so like embarrassing. A lot of citizens in the United States began to arm themselves once they knew that October was approaching. But they began to associate October with pranking and annoying pranks. They did not want to be pranked. They did not want to be harassed. It now had a more dangerous approach. People were beginning to arm themselves. So one of these pranks actually became deadly when these boys, they decided to play a prank on random people on the street. They ran like a fishing line. You know how it's very thin, almost like kind of invisible looking? They ran a fishing line across the sidewalk and just waited for someone to pass by so they can see them fall. So this man finally came and, you know, walked on the sidewalk. He fell down. He saw the boys that were laughing at him, and he got very upset. He had a gun with him and he shot them. So these were young teenagers. Obviously what they were doing was not right, but I mean, no one deserves to lose their life over a prank. So it just goes to show how angry people were getting at this point with the pranks and with Halloween. Like people were getting very fed up. Another prank that just took a wrong turn and went deadly was when this mother had a heart attack after her daughter opened the door. After they rang the doorbell, her daughter opened the door and she got a jack-o'-lantern thrown at her face, which that must have hurt. Like jack-o'-lanterns, like those things are heavy to pick up, dude. Imagine getting that thrown at your face. So yes, this poor mom had a heart attack. That's horrible. So yes, these pranks were getting out of hand and people were, I guess you could say, dying from them because, you know, situations sometimes take a wrong turn and people get hurt. Like I said, once October rolled around, people were beginning to associate Halloween with just violent acts, horrible pranks, annoying people. It was not a time that many people enjoyed. So this period of you know, mixing in the Great Depression with Halloween was kind of known as Black Halloween. So you can Google it or whatever. I had never heard of it until I just started to do some research, but it was like dark times essentially that were surrounded during this period of time of just people feeling depressed, people losing their jobs, and then sprinkle on top, you know, these pranksters that were, you know, getting out of hand. It was dark. It was Black Halloween. Communities, religious organizations, and concerned parents, they feared the repercussions of canceling Halloween. They felt that if they canceled Halloween, it could eventually, you know, backfire, and children and teenagers would be even more chaotic. Instead of having their children be bored during this time of the month and getting out of hand with the pranks, they decided to fill it up with activities so that their children can have something to look forward to. So this was the birth of haunted houses. Haunted houses was not a thing until the 1930s. This was the Great Depression, like I said, and there wasn't a lot of money for, you know, one person to be able to support all the children in their neighborhood with candy. They would say, okay, at this house, I'm gonna give out candy. At this house, I'm gonna give out apples. At this house, I'm gonna let them decorate, you know, a costume. You know, they'd have like the most common costumes, which was like the ghost. So they would have people give out like white fabric. At another house, it became like trick-or-treating that we know today. So now it was a lot more common to see costume parades, haunted houses, carnivals. You know, people from the communities in different areas of the US were now just trying to fill up that month with as many activities as possible to keep their children busy and away from pulling pranks on people or just causing chaos in general. Little by little, this became the Halloween that we all know today, which is where you go door to door and you say trick or treat and they give you candy. A lot of that Halloween that we know today originated from the Great Depression, known as Black Halloween. So obviously Halloween goes further from the 1930s or the Great Depression. It goes further down to what we talked about, which was the Celts. And honestly, Halloween is one of my favorite times of the year. I love it. I love getting dressed up. I love dressing up my dogs. I love decorating my home. It's just a different feeling in the air. And I know that a lot of people love that time of the year. And it's kind of like crazy and sad to think that it was almost canceled. It was almost banned completely because of, you know, people taking it too far. And I'm happy that it's here today. I'm happy that we're able to celebrate it. And I know that it's quarantine right now, but hopefully we'll be able to do something for Halloween. I know that I'm gonna decorate my house, and I know that I'm still gonna buy my costume, even if I just wear it in my house. But hopefully things are back to normal by the time that October comes. So thank you guys so much for watching my video. I really appreciate you guys clicking on it, and I hope that I was able to teach you something about Black Halloween, because it was definitely fun doing some research on it. So thank you and bye.